Techie Brezza, the Citybird SUV.
Oh, welcome back, Josh Butler. We've been expecting you. It's a blitz from one of the finest white ball hitters of the game, and it has taken Rajasthan Royals to 4-4. It has handed RCB yet another defeat, as questions will continue to pour in on how their season and their side is shaping up. But for now, it's a very happy Royals camp in Jaipur. We look back at a game that we can now analyse with the result, with how the surface played in both innings, and break that down for you on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Well, if you're just joining us, please send through your comments and questions. I'd love to take as many as time permits. To Tom Moody, Mitch McClenaghan and Wasim Jaffer, all of whom predicted at half-time Rajasthan would chase it down. And Tom, is it fair to say it was a pretty easy chase in spite of the early loss of Jaiswal?
Yeah, well, that was the big thing, wasn't it? You know, Jaiswal going early, and then the first 2 overs, I think it was 1 for 6. So very much RCB had control of the game at that point. But what we saw, the turnaround of the power play, they still ended up with 53 at the end of that power play, which showed the intent that was required to chase down that total. We all felt that it was a par total, but we also felt that it was going to be an uphill battle for RCB given their attack and the history of what that attack's done in trying to defend totals.
Mitch, what are your thoughts now, seeing how both innings played out?
Yeah, look, I thought RCB had control of the power play. Josh was really struggling there for a period. Samson was playing some nice shots, but they hadn't really got away. And tactically, their seamers had done really well until they decided to change it up and go with Dagger in the 6th over, which really gave Josh some momentum. I think the over went for 20 in the end, and that was a significant turning point in the game because the seamers had contained them nicely. Reece Topley was beautiful at the top. Dayal had bowled well again, so they put them under some pressure, and then from there, the difference between the RCB innings and the RR innings was the fact that Samson and Josh Butler were going from both ends. I think Josh at one point was striking at high 180s. Yep. Samson, before getting out, was striking at early 170s. So there was no reprieve for the bowlers from either end, and they saw a weakness with the young leg spinner coming in, and they went after him and exploited that as well. So by the stage where it got to the game, towards the end of the game, they were just chipping it around. There was no real run rate pressure because they'd done all the hard work early with their strike rates.
Yeah, I think that should be the subject of conversation here. Comparing these two innings, one of a batting team and an overall team in great form, one that's still searching for ideally their best side, their best batting order, and also the 200s, therefore looking at the situations both teams find themselves in. We can look at that right now and think, oh, Kohli can do more if he faces 72 balls. But the rest of the RCB team is, well, pretty poor, to say it quite frankly here. Josh Butler has taken 100 of 58 balls, Wasim, but you've got Samson going 69, 42. You've got someone else ensuring that this is an easy 180 as against what looked like a lot of effort to get to 180 for RCB.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the mid-show that the other 48 balls that the other batters played, they didn't put on that many runs. Bowling-wise, I mean, like Mitch mentioned, the power play tactics. I mean, Siraj bowled only 1 over. We know he can bowl 2 in the power play. That's his strength to bowl with the new ball. I was surprised, and their spinners didn't give them control. I mean, their 4 overs went for 63, and when your spinners don't bowl on that kind of wicket, their fast bowling, obviously barring Reece Topley at the top, doesn't show any teeth at all.
I think what we should get into here is what kind of batting plan or batting tempo are you ideally looking for your batters to execute in a game like this, in a T20 game? If you look at the opening partnership, Tom, and I'm going to take some questions here as well, a lot of questions that are coming on the pace that RCB got their runs at. Emmanuel Stephenson says Virat was the set batter. He has to go for it. Otherwise, new batters coming in are under pressure. The last few, he scored some runs in the last 2 overs, but it still wasn't enough. Megastar Rocky says, Wasim, why did Virat play defensively in the middle overs? So I'm sure there'd be a sentiment to understand the Kohli innings. But if we have to understand where RCB could have taken the tempo up, did they even try?
I think the tempo needed to go up after they got set at the beginning, and that is with Faf du Plessis and Virat Kohli. Both got in, We respect the Faf's, recapturing form, but when you have a situation where you get a set platform, and what I mean by a platform is 20 or 30 runs, you've got them on the board, so you've got a foundation to your innings. You need to communicate with your partner, right, okay, bowler B is coming on next, get me on strike, I'm going to target him because he's right up my street, or vice versa. The communication needs to go that we both are going hard now because we've got our platform, or we need to go for 2 boundaries and over at this point. And you have preferences. There's certain bowlers that I would prefer to target. There'd be certain bowlers that Wasim would prefer to target. You communicate that and you take that bowler down. To me, the as good as the Faf and Kohli partnership was, that moment didn't come into play where suddenly you have that blowout 20 over and you get momentum, and that's suddenly where you're shooting above 200.
Their partnership was 125 of 84. Butler and Sampson put on 148 of 86. It's those things. It's 20 more runs when 2 set batters are there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is it one guy after that gets a quick fire 20 of 10, like we said? Then maybe you're looking at a different game. So I'm trying to understand what's easier to achieve and what RCB missed.
I think Tom's kind of covered most of it, but yeah, it is. It's when you get set. We're talking to Finchy downstairs, and it's getting set and firing from both ends, and just saying we're going until one of us gets out. That was what Finchy was talking about. You both got to go. You can't just be like, yep, I know sometimes you have a guy who anchors through the innings, but you both got to take some chances. You both got to take some risks to get that strike rate up. And it's also pitch assessment, right? Conditions assessment. They would have had the conversations, and it looked from the outset, once you got through the new ball, it looked like it was a 200 wicket. It was coming on nicely. You could play your shots. You could hit through the line. So at that point, you're right. They probably should have been going from both ends. I guess.
Go on.
No, I guess the one thing you do want to touch on is that as a bowling unit, even when you're under the pump, it's so important that you stay in the game, because 1 over can win you the game. And I'd have to say that Nondre Berger coming back and bowling his last over in the 19th, and it only going for 4 runs. It was 1 wide and 3 singles with 3 dot balls. And at that stage, when you have a set batter in who's getting close to 100, to only go for 4 in the 19th was a significant over in that game. And in all honesty, that's the 10 runs that you'd expect to get off that 19th over that probably lost RCB the game.
Yeah.
The other thing to consider is the game's changed significantly over the last 5 years, and even more so over the last 2 years with this impact sub. So the relevance of the anchor batter is not as relevant as it used to be, because you have that extra batter, in your armoury. So the value of what Abhishek Sharma did last night, for instance, for Sunrisers Hyderabad, is more significant to the outcome of your team's endeavours than someone sitting in the game for a long period of time. So there's a different way to play the game now, and you need to have that mindset that a 40 off 12 balls or 15 balls is far more significant impact for your team than a slow burning 80 or a slow burning 100.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there are lots of comments coming through. Where was that? 15. There it is. Jagmohan Bish. The Faf and Kohli opening cost them at least 15 to 20 runs. There's another one. This is interesting from Hanish Uppalapati. The attitude of not trusting others, that others can do the job, is the problem here. Because if that was the messaging, and that's why they went more cautiously, because they're worried about the form of Maxwell or the form of Green, and they've dropped Rawat and they didn't even send in DK. That's problematic though, isn't it, Wasim? Or do you sense, no, that was the role, that our batting is not in form, so today do not press 5th gear soon?
No, I don't think that's the right way to go, because they know their bowling is not strength, and they need to go hard. We talked about it that CSK had the similar approach last year. Their bowling was weak, and they used to go really hard. Ajinkya Rahane played like that, Raidu and all that. So RCB need to play on that template that every time they bat first, they need to score 200 or in excess of 200, 220. Even if they get out for 160, 170 at times, that's okay. But we are going to play on that template. Because you're getting 180 and you're losing easily anyway. So I don't think it solves the purpose in my mind.
I just looked at both innings, funny enough, and as I just calculated, I'm making sure my quick mental math isn't wrong, but there are 33 dots in both innings. They cancel out, right? And it's the boundaries, isn't it? 17, 18, 22, 24 boundaries, 21 boundaries.
The early history of T20 cricket, the dot ball percentage was a real important measure. The modern day T20 cricket, it's boundary percentage. You don't look at dot balls as much. They're still an important thing, but they're secondary to the boundary percentage. Fours and sixes is your key to capitalising and maximising your score.
I think there would have been even greater as well. Say, I mean, Rajasthan looked like they really took the handbrake or pulled the handbrake up towards the end when they were only having to go run a ball. So they definitely had more
I'll
boundaries.
just give you the right
and
numbers
balls
because
in
I'm doing this on the fly.
the
But
tank, yeah.
12, 14, 18, 21 boundaries in 20 overs in RCB. That's 14 fours and 7 sixes. And in the Rajasthan innings, 20 fours and 6 sixes. So 21 versus 20.
So no more.
That's different. Yeah.
That is the modern day template. The dot balls were critical, and you'd know that, Wasim, as someone that's coached in the IPL and understand the game from a batsman's point of view. That's how it shifted, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has, yeah. And the only thing I can say in favour of RCB, if at all, is that Rajasthan bowling was better. I mean, those two spinners, the fast bowlers, compared to RCB. But saying that, they still need to press hard.
They're allowed to be better, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got to make that point. We were sitting there and watching, okay, this is a critical period of the game when the spinners came on and he saw Sanju Samson give up his stump, step leg side, hit over extra cover. He took more risks against their spinners than RCB took against Rajasthan spinners.
Yeah, I mean, if we just look at the last 6 overs as well, which RCB entered at 125 for 1, you think that's a very good platform? We've seen teams in good batting conditions when wickets in hand get 80, 90 even in the last 6 if someone really goes mad. And there were 2 overs of spin ball, but they've still gone at less than 10 an over. And they've only ended up losing 2 wickets. So that's the other problem. You wouldn't be particularly pleased with that overall scorecard. 183 for 8, it's different. But 183 for 3 somehow just doesn't have the right ring to it in modern day 2020 cricket.
Yeah, well, when you're set in that position, 10 or under is not enough. When you've got all those wickets in hand, you've got a set batter in. You'd be wanting north of 12 and over as an absolute bare minimum.
Yeah, 58 of the last 5 then, or rather 58 of the last 6, beg your pardon, which made it pretty hard for RCB. Very well, let's take some more questions before we wrap this up. Let's give our Rajasthan Royals the credit that they deserve. They lost a wicket. Let's talk about Josh Butler though. And this would mean a lot to him personally, wouldn't it, for a player who's not at the best of form of late?
Enormous, because he's such a central figure to that franchise. He's so highly respected at Rajasthan Royals, but also globally in the game. Everyone knows what he's achieved and admire what he's done. And you could nearly see it in his face in the early games that he was searching for that form, and for him to have a breakout innings like this, it's significant for him personally, but even more so for Rajasthan, because it's another piece in the puzzle which really firms them up as favourites.
Yeah, where does he stand in terms of really instilling fear in a bowler when he's going? It almost seems like any ball is hittable for 4 and 6. He's one of the few batters that gives bowlers that feeling.
Yeah, he definitely does. He hits interesting angles as well. So if you're not switched on tactically, don't have your fielders in the right place, he can get a really high strike rate really easily. I guess now's the scary part, right? When Josh is going through a patch of bad form where he hasn't got runs, you feel like you can bowl at him.
Yeah.
But once he gets a big score, like he is a confidence player. And Josh is, when he's riding high, he's one of the hardest guys in world cricket to bowl to. And it was nice to see him play the lap again. I think that's a part we haven't seen a lot of lately. And if he brings that back into his game, he becomes even more dangerous.
And I have not seen him so happy after getting 100.
Yeah, I think
since the World Cup, he's been terribly sad. It's been a tough little period for him, hasn't it?
This innings meant a lot for him.
There's a nice comment I saw a little while back saying Butler was in such a mood today. Even if RCB would have done everything right, they might have still lost, which can happen. But yeah, do that part first.
Honestly, with the way Sanju Samson and Joss were going, they could have chased 220, 230.
What about the form that I think Sanju Samson? There are a few questions. These are questions on Jaiswal though, and it's only the one sort of note that hasn't been ticked in 4 wins out of 4. But it says, would you still take Jaiswal to the World Cup if Abhishek Sharma outperforms him this IPL?
I think you'd still take Yashasvi. You don't want to change your tactics too early. He's still a quality player. I think he's just playing, really risky. He's taking really risky option very early in the inning. He needs to give himself a little bit of time.
Yeah.
He's still a quality player. He can still score runs off good quality cricket shots. That's the only mistake I can say. But once he gets going, we all know what he can do. He takes down spinners to the fast bowlers as well. Just need to give himself a little bit of time.
Yeah. RR just ticking more boxes, barring the Jaiswal one, which no one seems too concerned about. We almost think it's 1 innings away from Jaiswal returning to form.
Good teams carry 1 or 2 players out of form.
Yeah.
And they then pay dividends in the back end of tournaments. So it wouldn't be an issue as far as I'm concerned. And I agree with Wasim. All he needs to do is he needs just to absorb a bit of pressure early, just bat properly for 10 balls, for 12 balls, and then he'll find that boundary ball come naturally. When he's looking for it, when he's not quite in the rhythm, it always, ends up sort of going against you.
The huge positive for a Rajasthan fan point of view is that when their bowling was off, their bowling's been exceptional so far this tournament, particularly their power play bowling. When that was off, the batters got the job done. And if the batters hadn't have got the job done, then there would have been even more pressure on the bowlers next time. And that's when you can get on that slippery downward slope.
Sanju Samson, just more of the same, or are we seeing anything different about him? Because that's very good innings from the captain.
Outstanding innings, strike rate of nearly 165. Again, he sort of kept the pace of the game going. As Mitch said, both those two, Butler and Samson, they could have chased down something well over 200. They cruised at the end. And it just goes to show, how light that score was from RCB. It was, probably 20 runs light of what it should have been.
All right, that is pretty much a wrap. But there are some questions quickly on whether this is now time for RCB to make some big changes. We've spoken about Faf du Plessis at length here, but there are suggestions about Will Jacks and, of course, the inclusion of Maipal Lomror if Patidar doesn't give you the confidence to send him in early enough with the kind of form he's in. Either of those two, take us for that, which would mean a captaincy change as well. Are we reaching there, Wasim?
Well, Faf at least showed a little bit of form, even though he was slow. But I don't think they'll go there. But yeah, Lomror should have played. Anuj Rawat, we talked about. We were surprised with the team selection. Really surprised, and I won't be surprised. They are at the bottom of the table, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I don't think they're going to bin off Faf. I think Faf is going to remain skipper unless he wants to move on, which won't happen. He's got some runs tonight. But what I do think is I think Cameron Green is under some pressure. They obviously didn't show the confidence to put him up the order and get them to a 200 total. So Will Jacks might come in to open. Cameron Green might miss out. And then you might see Faf slot to 3.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think they've got to seriously consider Will Jacks. How they fit him in is the discussion that needs to be had. I can't see him coming in for Faf, but to me, both Maxwell and Green are under pressure.
Do you still play Maxwell in the next game?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think both Green and Maxwell are under pressure because I think your hand is forced to. You can't have a potential resource in your squad and not press the trigger. Particularly when you're in the position you're in now. What have they played? 5 games and won 1.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing it now, when are you doing it? Your season's nearly gone. Yeah. So you do need to make that decision. And to me, it's one of those two. And I'd just I'd keep Faf and Virat opening and put Will Jacks at 3.
Yeah. Raunak Mukherjee says the problem is not with Virat Kohli. Without Virat, look at where RCB would be.
Yeah, well, look, I think we can't ignore that was a very good 100. But we also equally got to recognise that it's teams that win games of cricket, not individuals.
Yep.
that was a very good individual performance, and we've seen it time and time again with Virat Kohli. He is a high-class player. There's no question of that, but you can question the team and how that operates at RCB because it doesn't play as a team.
All right, fair enough. Let's have a quick rapid-fire review of this game. Shall we? 20 seconds to each of the panelists to answer this. Mitch, let me start with you. 125 for 1 in 14 overs to 183 for 3 in 20. What explains Bengaluru's last 6 overs? 20 seconds.
Well, they lost their way. Virat Kohli didn't have a partner at the other end who was striking at a considerable strike rate, which put even more pressure on himself. And Andre Berger bowling the 19th over and only going for 14 runs. That was high-quality bowling at the death.
All right. Tom, can Kohli's strike rate be questioned when no one else is scoring runs? 20 seconds.
I don't think his strike rate can be questioned tonight because he can't carry the whole team. You know, he provided an outstanding century, but he was let down at the other end with people not striking at a rate that gave them a competitive score. Again, they were probably 15, 20 short.
All right. And for a team that we thought was at least a batting force, which may have questions on their bowling, now both seem a problem. Wasim, batting or bowling, Bengaluru's bigger concern, and why?
I think both, and probably I will add the selection as well. So all three of them.
Everything's going wrong. Quick 5-second answer.
That was very fast. To the
All
point,
right.
though.
All right, Mitch, Kohli and Butler, please rate both hundreds tonight out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to say Kohli's 100 was probably an 8.5 out of 10. Left a few runs out at the end, but had to manage the innings because of the guys at the other end not doing their job. I think Joss's 100 was exceptional. That's as good a chasing 100 as you'll see. So I would say that's a 9.5. He was dominant and even then at the end had the ability to slow down and make sure he got his team across the line.
Okay, time's up. Next one. What did Jos Buttler do differently to find his way back to runs today? Tom?
Again, he gave himself a little bit of time up front, presented the full face. He didn't play across the line, hit through the ball down the line. He brought back his little scoop, which puts a lot of pressure on a bowling attack. And once he found the middle of his bat, he didn't look back.
All right. And finally, Wasim, was there anything in the pitch or conditions that made it easier to bat in the second innings?
I think so. I think pitch got a little bit better with a little bit of dew around. And obviously, the bowling attack doesn't have the same depth which Rajasthan had. And I think the wicket got really better.
Okay. And that is a rapid-fire review just done and dusted. There are still questions coming in. And I know the RCB fans, wonderful fan base, that they would be very hurt by this. It's another loss. Questions on whether on the selection point that Wasim's already made. Lots of suggestions to bring in Will Jacks, which Tom and Mitch have said. And it looks like there's some sympathy for Cameron Green. Sonny saying he's been mismanaged, just like a lot of players in that team. He's too good a player to not have firing. So, yeah, well, I think it's going to just go on. But still a long season. We wait and see where RCB go from here. For now, we go to the impact zone. Right, if you've been following us right through the tournament, the panel picks 3 players before the start of play, depending on how they do as per ESPN Cricinfo Smart Stats, which is a much more accurate way of telling you the impact of a player in a T20 game than conventional numbers. And I think it'll be proven today as well when you've got 2 contrasting hundreds. But as we look at our winner with 169.3, just beating number 2, who just beat number 3.
I had a day like RCB.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh, man.
That's okay. Congratulations, Wasim. That's great.
Well done, mate.
Yeah.
Well done.
And I can tell you that Virat Kohli's 96 as an impact score compares to 114 that Jos Buttler had. So that gives you an indication as to why the impact numbers are important, taking into account strike rate, among other things as well. So very good innings, 114 for Buttler, 96 Kohli, 83 Samson, which you saw over there. So Wasim, are you pleased with that?
Pretty pleased, yeah. Getting Tom from that number 1 position. Pretty pleasing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And now we can also tell you what the overall season leaderboard looks like. So let's have a look at that, please. Wasim's doing well.
Creeping up.
So 1.7, getting closer to Mitch McClenaghan, neck and neck. And Moody and Varun at 2.25.
Yeah.
So what, do you get a negative as well, or was that the score anyway after yesterday?
Yeah, I think they've
Tom
mixed the numbers
Tom
up
had a selection issue today as well, like us.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused.
Very well. It's still a long tournament. It's only 19 games in, right? So we have plenty more cricket coming your way, including a double-header tomorrow. Thank you very much to Tom Moody, McClenaghan and Wasim Jaffer. Plenty more from them as we head into another week of IPL cricket. Join us for build-up at 3 o'clock tomorrow for MIDC. What a big game that is. 9th versus 10th. They better win that to stay alive and realistic in the tournament. And we will look forward to your company then. For Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Download the mobile app, please, if you haven't already. So there'll be a lot being said, written as well about the RCB performance. And we'll have you covered on the ESPN Cricket Info app. We will see you tomorrow afternoon. Bye-bye.
All new hot and techy Brezza, the Citybird SUV.